Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS Kedron.
Okay, nice to be in orbit. The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Good evening. It is Monday night, September the 17th, as the moon waxes on into midnight. This is Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop, and we are broadcasting to you from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the great American South. Call-in number for the show is 1-800-588-0335. The website is lightingthevoid.com. We're also on KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Spreaker, iTunes Radio, Radio Guide FM, all other syndicates and affiliates via The Fringe FM. Tonight, we're going to be speaking to Senior Monroe Institute instructor and author, Dr. Joseph Gallenberger. He's here to talk to us about manifesting wealth and health through psychokinesis and more. This is going to be interesting. I wonder, when I used to watch Star Wars, and sometimes I would think those Jedi tricks would be really cool if we could do that. If you could actually use your mind to influence your reality, this physical realm, in the now, how cool would that be? Now, if you don't know what psychokinesis is, it's an alleged psychic ability allowing a person to influence a physical system without physical interaction. Is there any real truth to this? Coming up, we're going to speak to Senior Monroe Institute and author, Dr. Joseph Gallenberger. I want to thank you all for your support in every way. I know I usually give social media shout-outs during the show, but we got so many likes on the network that I still haven't found everybody's name, but I promise you I'll give each and every one of you a shout-out for giving us a like. And that if you just got through listening, I want to tell you that was Alex Exum, who's going to be also on this network. He's going to be before this broadcast, Monday through Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific. Awesome guy. I think you're really going to enjoy him, and we're glad to have him aboard. Now, I do want to give you a real special shout-out to Moonlich. So I usually get stuff in the mail from people. I want to say thank you to Kat for what you sent me in the mail. But for the first time, I got something in the mail. Actually, it wasn't for me. It was for Leo. And Moonlich sent my cat a special care package, and boy, was he excited. I said, look, Leo, it's got your name on it and everything. And as soon as I opened it up, he started stepping all over it. And Moonlich sent some catnip and some treats and some stuff for Leo. So I really want to say thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. That's really cool of you, man. It's very, very thoughtful. But it did concern my son. My son was like, you're starting to get a lot of fan mail here lately, Dad. He said, doesn't that bother you that people know our address? And I was like, no, not really. Only certain people know it. Real quick business. This show is brought to you by Audible. Go grab your free trial at audibletrial.com/LTV radio. Grab a t-shirt. Donate, please, to help out the show and the network. We could really use your support, or use the Amazon portal, all that good stuff, and that'll help us out if you can do that. You can also go to the chat rooms. We've got one on Spreaker. If you search Lighting the Void or the Fringe FM on Spreaker, and there's a Discord chat room if you go to thefringe.fm/chat. So we got 2 chat rooms going, and we can get to your questions in there as well. And if we open the phones up tonight, I'll let you know. You can sign up to the newsletter, too, on the website. We got a bunch of new newsletter subscribers. That's totally free. Now you just put your name and email in there, and you're good to go. I want to thank Eric Markham. I can't tell you guys how Eric, he's the partner on the network, but he's also my co-producer for the show. And I cannot express how good of a job he's doing. He's doing such an amazing job. I just want you to know that, buddy. You're doing great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the help. Jeremy Scott, the program director, and all of you guys that have helped me all the time, whether it's through messaging or social media follows or likes. We really appreciate it. Now, before we bring Dr. Joseph Gallenberger on, I want to tell you that on John Polk's show, which I produce, I had the pleasure of speaking with Sue Walker. And this is the first time this happened because you guys know that I want to talk to an ET. I want to talk to an alien. I really, really do. And she has a book called Inviting ET, and it's authored by Sue Walker and Reverend White Otter, which I got in the mail. So I've got all the methods here, plus the free download on her website. And I'll give that link out in the show notes, too, just because I brought it up. But I'm going to attempt this. I promise you guys, with all of my heart. And if I happen to talk to an alien, if some weird stuff happens, I will let you know. You will know first. Right here on Lighting the Void, I promise you. I'm going to go just all out on this thing. I'm super stoked about it. First time I've ever seen a book about that. All right, now let's bring on our guest. Dr. Joseph Gallenberger has hosted 91 Inner Vegas adventure workshops in the casinos of Las Vegas since 1998. During these 2 decades, there have been massive, ever-accelerating changes in economics, politics, and culture. These changes present major challenges in generating the positive energy needed to perform psychokinesis in casinos and to manifest abundance in general. In 5 years since Joe's book, Inner Vegas, Creating Miracles, Abundance, and Health was published, there has been dramatic progress in scientific discoveries about psychokinesis. Now, Dr. Joe Gallenberger is a clinical psychologist with over 30 years' experience as a therapist. He developed a great interest in the universal principles of manifestation, which led in 1992 to an exploration of psychokinesis, the ability to influence matter through non-physical means. How cool is this, right? Advancing his methods over years of study, during which he achieved statistically powerful results in university laboratories, he began to teach this skill to groups that share this passion and interest in the fundamentals of manifestation. Now, one of the most successful of the more than 100 workshops he's taught in his Inner Vegas adventure, he is a senior trainer at the Monroe Institute. Gotta love that. Perfect for this show. And created its popular MC Squared program to teach psychokinesis, energy healing, and manifestation. You can check out the website at Sync Creation. That's SYNCCreation.com, liquidluckbook.com, and innervegas.com. Dr. Joseph Gallenberger, thank you so much for coming on Lighting the Void. It's a real pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Joe, for having me. I'm glad to be on tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. I'm just ready to get this started because now when I say like Jedi mind stuff, am I close at all? I mean, is that the same kind of stuff that we're talking about here? Use your mind to influence, use your mind to affect the physical realm. It's a little different than moving objects, right, with your mind.
Yeah, you're quite close. What I'm going to do is, most times people talk about psychokinesis as affecting matter with your mind. To me, it's more a matter of your heart. The mind is like the steering wheel in the car. It sets the direction where you want to go, but you don't go anywhere without any gas, right? And the best gas you can put in that car is the energy of an open heart, very loving, compassionate energy. That tends to often be what's missing, like, in a movie like The Secret, where they talk about visualize what you want to create and it'll happen. Visualization is helpful, but you got to have the right energy to really bring that in for you. So we're affecting matter with our energy as much as our mind, but mind does come in. And you're right. I've just finished a book called Use the Force, very much using the Jedi model of being in line with that rhythm of the universe, which we could call consciousness, and that a person can receive training in doing that.
Well, I just, it's kind of hard to believe just if somebody came to you and said, look, I can go to Vegas and I can influence or guess these dice and do pretty good, right? At first you'd be like, yeah, buddy, I've heard that before, right? But there's real scientific research into this, and you've actually been a part of it all the way from the Monroe Institute to even Princeton. So it's, I'm kind of impressed with this. You know, we get a lot of skeptics in this field, especially in subjects of this matter. So, I mean, it's important that the research is talked about, too, and you've done your part in that as well.
Yeah, there's actually, rather than starting in casinos, up at Monroe Institute, which is, if people aren't aware, is a place where you can go to really study expanded awareness, expanded consciousness without any dogma there, no religion you have to believe in. So Republicans, Democrats, atheists, Buddhists, Catholics, fundamentalists, Christians, all kinds of people show up from around the world. And they put 20, 30,000 people, 20 at a time, through this over the years. So they have great consciousness expansion programs. And I was helping Bob Monroe on one of those programs and began to see a psychokinetic event. The first one I saw was being able to roll dice in any pattern that you'd want, like 7 sevens in a row, that kind of thing. And went to Princeton University, as you mentioned. They had a place called PEAR, Pear Labs, Princeton Engineering Anomalous Research. And over the years, they've done experiments with 12.5 million trials and got results on meta-analysis of about 1 trillion to 1 by chance. And so I went there, and they had some really neat experiments. One was and this could be kind of Jedi, if you wish, was the height of a fountain bubbles by random hydrodynamic law. It keeps changing column height randomly. And they had that behind glass, lit with lasers, so it was sparkly. And they said, Joe, make it high for 15 minutes, make it low 15 minutes, leave it alone for 15 for control. And I used some of the Monroe techniques, which is sort of to project energy, much like you have an aura around your body, if you will, that you could form that. And I formed it around the water as a column of support during the high condition. And then I actually used, kind of like a lightsaber, this idea of making your energy into a bar, if you will, that you could hold, and I would slice the water repeatedly in the low condition. And that came out 12.97 on a Z-score, which is 1.96 is 1 in 100 by chance, so a pretty strong score there. And there was other experiments, like with a computer, picking pixels from one picture like a kitty cat, the other a pyramid, and they mix them randomly on the screen so you see just mush. And you can think with your mind, here, kitty, kitty, and get that picture to come out real clearly, causing the computer to pick ones or zeros. And that was 30,000 to 1 by chance. So I left the lab thinking, this is really neat, it's really possible, I can do it, it's real, and I wanted to get a black belt in PK, if you want Jedi Master stuff. So I looked around for where I could do that, and Vegas was great because...
so you were hooked after that event. I would be too.
Yeah. So Vegas became good because we know the statistics on dice and the games out there are fair. We know the slot machines have... random number generators, pseudo-random number generators, much like that second experiment I told you about, the kitty cat and the pyramid. Instead, you could say, here, royal flush, or here, 4 of a kind, or whatever you would want. So I went out there and started doing it by myself for a few years, and then began to teach it, as you mentioned. And I think 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing our 90-second workshop out there. So it's been going on a while, 18 years almost.
Man, that is incredible. Now this is something I believe if everybody really knew was a reality, they want to learn this. So it's important. I mean, I'm glad you got this material out here. This stuff is amazing to me. I want to figure this stuff out, and every week I talk to somebody that not only just talks about it, but they got research to back it up, and then they've got books and then, like you've got, and CDs or whatever to help you do it yourself. And I don't know, it's just really cool to me. It's synchronistic because all of the answers that we ask on the show, the guests just seem to file in perfectly, and I'm sure there's something to that.
The cool
synchronicity.
thing too, Joe, is that this psychokinesis, that sounds like a pretty scientific name, but that same energy and focus can really bring to you what you'd like to create in your life. So that whether that's ideal job or career, or how to contribute to your community or soulmate, or increased physical wellness, all kinds of things respond to that energy. And that's what I like. Some of that other stuff is really hard to study. Let's say you're in a bad mood for 2 weeks before you get a cold, or you are looking for your soulmate and you've been trying to be positive for 6 months. It might take a year to bring that in, and you're not getting any feedback whether even you're doing it right. In Vegas, you go into really connected with the earth beautifully, connected with spirit, feeling all is one, feeling lots of love, focused yet letting go, this interesting dance between focus and letting go. You get rewarded within seconds with money. If you go into greed, fear, ego, you get punished by withdrawal of money within seconds. So it's a great training ground, Vegas is, for an energy that we can use now, particularly on the planet when we're in such a turbulent time, to stay out of fear. One of my biggest phrases is, fear is expensive, love is priceless, choose wisely. To stay out of fear, to stay in our hearts open, and yet be effective in what we'd like to see change. So it's not just a feel-good thing. It has a lot of practical application from my point of view.
So let me ask you just a question that I know a lot of people are thinking right now. Okay. Before we get into the Vegas stuff. But by the way, a lot of my audience members have read the Robert Monroe books, and if you remember those books when he was playing cards with his buddies, and he knew what card was about to come up, and he just hinted about this. He was like, somehow, I knew what card was coming up, and he would just tell the guy, that's a 4 or whatever. I know what you got. And so he was just in the zone. So I think Robert Monroe was talking about exactly what you're talking about. But what's the difference between that and then someone saying that they can bend a spoon with their mind?
Well, the bending the spoon would be a psychokinesis task. We do in my home study course, Sync Creation, at the course I developed up in Monroe, MC Squared. We'll do metal bending like that. We'll grow seeds in our hands. Sometimes the best we've done is get root growth of about 1.5 inches in 2 minutes off feed. We'll light light bulbs with our energy. Some scientists have measured 400 volts off my hands when I'm applying energy to the light bulb. We will do dice and patterns, as I mentioned. All that would be considered psychokinesis. When you get into knowing which card is next, that would be precognitive or intuition, and that tends to go up when the PK skills go up and vice versa. So that's lots of fun. So we're up if it's in the Vegas environment, we might be affecting things to roll 5 5s in a row or what have you, but we also may then get strong knowings exactly what will be next, and that can come in handy in a gaming environment.
Oh, absolutely. Now tell me a little bit about, we're talking about Robert Monroe, obviously you've had some out-of-body experiences. You talk about that you have had like 100 or more out-of-body experiences, which I'm pretty jealous of, but was this something that you developed or it just started happening to you?
I had some spontaneous ones when I was a kid, which a lot of people do. Sometimes they're not aware they have, but things like dreams where you're flying and feeling, very, very free, that could be a sign of an out-of-body event. But then by college, I began to see if I could consciously induce and control the out-of-body state, and was able to do so with some pretty good success. Joe, for me, there's a continuum of out-of-body. There's a classic astral projection where you can put your hand through the wall and feel the studs in the wall, and
right.
you're flying like with energy hands and arms. Then you could go out with less physical matter, if you will, or less illusion of having a body and be kind of a globe of light. And then you could go out almost in a mental projection and be a point of consciousness. And if you know your math, a point really has no dimensions. We just symbolize it by a dot. And all of those, to me, are on the out-of-body continuum because our consciousness is out of phase with our body. And it began to have things happen in that, you know, because of my science background, I wanted verification. So if I could go and see what page you were on in a particular book and how many Oreo cookies you ate, and then give you a call and you'd confirm that's exactly what was going on, I would consider that verification. I also had some out-of-body experiences because of trauma, which, you know, people do in near-death experiences. So I had a rough motorcycle wreck when I was 21, and when the car hit me, boom, I was out of body, looking at my body flopping in the street and feeling totally peaceful, etc. So I've had some that have been induced by meditation training and some that I wouldn't want to repeat, like motorcycle accident.
So it sounds to me like the out-of-body experience, psychokinesis, precognition, there's some kind of underlying part of the equation. Is it just energy? Is it positivity? Is there some type of state we have to get in to be able to do these things?
Energy has a lot to do with it, and a very high energy, but paradoxically being relaxed at the same time, and an intention and then letting go, that's another paradox will be there. But these are natural states, so there is theory that we probably go out of body quite often in our sleep but don't remember it. But just because they're natural doesn't mean it's easy if we get self-conscious or we're trying too hard. The example I usually give, Joe, would be, you know, if you want to fall asleep, that's a natural function. You think, gee, I'm tired, I'd like to go to sleep. That's your intention. And then you let go of the intent and you think of something else, or you read a little while and you fall asleep. But if I said to most people, okay, you're going on TV tomorrow night, and if you can fall asleep in 20 minutes in front of the audience of millions of people, I'll give you $1 million. Most people couldn't do it, right? It's natural, but now you're self-conscious and you're efforting and you'll never get to sleep. And out of body is like that. You know, there's this intention, gee, I'd really like to go out of body, and then you have to let go and forget about it, and yet stay awake and alert enough that you're aware when you go out of body, where most people, if they let go of the intention, they just fall asleep. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And okay. That's what I tend to do is fall asleep all the time, you know, and let go of the intention. But when I've used any of the exercises, either from Roberts or any of the Monroe exercises, I've been able to, you know, we talk about it quite frequently, keep the mind awake, I guess, while the body falls asleep, and then you start to experiment with states of consciousness that you're not used to. You're used to just being out of it when that happens, you know.
Yeah, so Bob famously coined that body asleep, mind awake for his, what he called his focus 10 state. And his CD exercises, I guess they initially were on audio tape, now CD and download, use binaural beat to help with that. And that does have a strong influence on the brain. Doesn't make you do it, but it's almost like if you wanted to learn the waltz and there's no band playing or anything, it's hard to do. But if a band was giving you the rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it would help you dance. The waltz, they set up a rhythm for the brain that if you wanted to relax and the rhythm is relaxing, it makes it much easier to do that. And so I've developed 7 or 8, I think, binaural beat exercises around opening your heart to manifest what you would like, many different things. And what people report there on my exercises, as well as Monroe, I think you mentioned I've been a trainer there 26 years, is that people with zero meditation experience or had tried meditation many times in the past and either got distracted or fell asleep are able to stay awake, yet relaxed and alert. And then within that state, it's much easier to begin to explore our potential in terms of the area of consciousness. And that's when you get the cool things like people feel like their guides are giving them messages, or they're having deep healing states or creative states. A lot of businesses use this. And I don't know if you know, Joe, but, hemisync is the Monroe term for this binaural beat.
Oh, yeah, we spoke with...
Yeah, it's effective for animals, too.
We spoke with the CEO of Hemisync on the show, and he was, he was very convincing. And I actually have some Hemisync products. I've got William Buellman's and a couple other ones that have really changed my life. It's what got me into this, actually.
Cool. Yeah. What? So Hemisync works even, they put it in animal shelters, and there's less barking, illness, aggression. They've hemisynced racehorses and cows for milk production. Anybody with 2 hemispheres in the brain there, mammals, can respond to that stimulation, which is really neat. So you don't have to have a particular set of beliefs or whatever. And, of course, we bring more intentionality than a dog or a cat would to it. And so then if our intention's to have an out-of-body experience or get guidance or what have you, it's very conducive. And so that really made it possible for me really even to begin to study this psychokinesis. The Princeton study I mentioned with 11.5 million trials, they usually were using unmotivated undergraduates for extra credit or something. And when I got involved with Princeton a little bit, as a psychologist, they were engineers mostly. I was wondering what it would be like if you brought in experts like Jedi Masters is one term, but let's say Qigong Masters, meditators, folks that believe this was possible, and you might get a much stronger effect. And that's indeed what I think we see in the work I've been doing. And we also are beginning to study the brainwave patterns of people when they are able to do things like bend metal or affect machines with their mind. So I've been working with the University of Virginia over the last few years.
Doesn't MIT have something like this going on, too? With I saw something on TV last night where this guy had a thing hooked up to his head, and he was speaking to the computer through his mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's we're beginning to interface that way. That's a bit of a different use, but in science, what we want is a causal chain, right? Like kind of a smoking gun. So I did an experiment at the DOPS lab, Department of Perceptual Studies at UVA, University of Virginia, where they had you trying to affect this box that had sensors in it with PK. And so you do PK 48 seconds on, 48 seconds off, 48 seconds on through hundreds trials. And we could see differences in the EEG, as well as the report was that the PK stuff was significant on the machine versus times where it was at rest. So they try to be very rigorous. You mentioned metal bending. They don't study that as much because there's some chance of sleight-of-hand magician stuff and, accusations of fraud, even though when they've done that in the lab properly, they've had 3 or 4 high-speed cameras in every direction, master magician watching, all kinds of things to protect against fraud. General science doesn't like that as well as it likes statistical data that they can crunch. So that's why some of these labs mainly deal with the random number generators, other kind of experiments where there's thousands of trials a second, meaning like a head-tail coin flip many times a second. And so if you influence it so you're getting 80% heads or something over 10,000 trials, that's statistically very, very firm evidence.
Before we go into the news break here with Vance, I just wanted to ask you just a speculative question, Dr.
Sure.
Gallenberger. What is the human mind that you speculate the human mind is actually capable of that we don't really know about, or maybe that's been hidden from us? What can we really do, you think? What can we do with our minds?
Short answer is amazing things. Bob Monroe said the greatest solution we have is that man has limitations. I'd go into more detail after the break if you like.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I know there's a power to it, and I think some of us are actually starting to tap into it. Inner Vegas is the book by Joseph Gallenberger. Also, Heaven is for Healing by Joseph Gallenberger, and Liquid Luck. Awesome material. We'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. Is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio. From Studio 303, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News for The Fringe FM, bringing light to the stories that surround us. Mummified human corpse filled with bees, wasps, and a squirrel discovered hanging from a tree. The partially mummified body of a man has provided an unusual home for the motley crew of woodland creatures. Scientists discovered wasps, honeybees, and even a squirrel nesting inside the corpse. The body was found hanging some 80 feet from the ground in a forest in southwestern Poland. The team thinks the corpse had remained undiscovered for about 13 years. The creatures were found when the body was transferred to Wrocław Medical University Forensic Medicine Department. You could read more of the disturbing details of this story at Newsweek.com. And there are some insects that taste with their feet and hear with their wings. Insects put their senses in strange places, from ears on their belly to noses on their legs and eyes on their genitalia. The looper moth in Mount Hood's National Forest is among a moth species that has a tympanum that works like an ear that's on their abdomen. For a butterfly, tasting with your feet isn't gross. In fact, it's a great way to find a delicious place to eat. The idea of walking around tasting our floor tile all day made us wonder, what are some other strange places insects have their sensory organs? It's a human-centric question, but we're only human. You can read more interesting details about insects at this article at nationalgeographic.com. And a mysterious environmental incident leaves Crimea City without birds. Armyansk, a city on the Russian-occupied Crimea Peninsula, has been left without any kind of birds after a mysterious chemical incident at a nearby Crimean Titan plant. On August 23rd, an unknown substance spewed into the atmosphere, covering everything in a rust-like plaque and immersing a foul odor. Social media was buzzing with reports and photos of houses, cars, and even plants covered in the mysterious substance. But occupation authorities ignored them for several days. At first, people started noticing that apart from an occasional crow, there were no more birds in Armyansk. But then things got progressively worse when more and more residents of Crimea City began experiencing breathing problems. But local authorities and media have completely ignored them. You can read all the details at odditycentral.com. And a bicyclist photographs a giant walking worm. A young Eric Ivan went out for a bicycle ride, as he normally does. However, an extra-normal event befell him on the scenic highway in Mexico near the summit known as Skull Hill. The photograph shows a sort of a giant worm that appears to be walking erect. The story on the photograph is published at inexplicada.blogspot.com. And it's time for this edition of the Stranger Than Fiction's Fun Fact. The toothpaste named Colgate in Spanish actually translates to "go hang yourself." And that wraps it up for another edition of the Stranger Than Fiction news right here on the Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt. Stick around for more Lighting the Void with your host, Joe Roop.
This is Jason Lindgren from Crow 777 Radio, and you can hear us 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday night here on the Fringe FM.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass because you're listening to KTLK, the Fringe FM. Shithead.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied, but you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. And purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Joe Roop. We're live on the Fringe FM. Don't forget that this show is here live 9 p.m. Pacific every night, Monday through Thursday night, that is. And we're speaking with Dr. Joe Gallenberger, Senior Monroe Institute instructor and author of Inner Vegas and Liquid Luck. And we're talking about psychokinesis and the methods of manifestation. Pretty fascinating stuff. Earlier, I kind of related this to the Jedi mind trick. And I always thought that Star Wars was on to something when they made those movies. And now we're finding out through Dean Radin, obviously Bob and Rowe, and folks like Dr. Joe Gallenberger, that some of this stuff is actually real. And I got a question I wanted to ask you. That's a really good question that you kind of brought up during the break. What does it feel like when you're doing this, when you're in the groove, when you're actually in the state of manifesting something through psychokinesis in the right way? Is there a certain feeling that you have when it's happening?
Definitely, and I guess it's one of the big reasons I continue to do it. It feels absolutely terrific because it's a state of having a wide open heart, feeling connected and one with everything, feeling grounded to the earth, being very strongly in the present moment, much like The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle's book. And so you feel very expanded. Some people even, burst into tears of joy out there when we're doing this. It has some things in common with the zone state in sports where, time seems to distort, maybe goes very slowly. Person has feeling of a lot of body grace often, and you just feel on top of the world when you're, and that precedes being able to do it. So one of the big things we do in our workshop is through the meditations we've been talking about with binaural beat and other heart-opening exercises, is we generate that top-of-the-world feeling before we even attempt to do the psychokinesis. And that's real different, Joe, than a lot of people. Gee, I'm feeling lousy and lonely, so I want to bring in a partner. Gee, I feel really poor, so I want to bring in money. And they're not feeling particularly great when they're trying to manifest. And lack manifests lack. So we shift that around, that you feel abundant and grateful and compassionate to all other beings, so you're out of ego, that you're feeling highly positive. And at that point, then when you begin to also feel lucky, that's when the luck comes in, if you will.
So our state of mind definitely can just totally sabotage what we're trying to do, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear that a lot, but people really don't get into the specifics of why, though.
Yeah, and it comes natural. If you've been out of a job for 3 months, if you've got a substantial health problem, what have you, it's not that easy to first generate this wonderful, ebullient state of consciousness. But if you do, it can be, very powerful. And now we have ways to shift how you're feeling and thinking quite easily compared to just trying it on your own. So, I have a CD we call Abundance Waterfall. You are imaging walking down a mountain pathway near a stream, and you come to a waterfall that represents all the abundance that's already flowing in your life. And you can sit in that and let that cascade over you. And if you want, you can change colors of it so that part that's blue might be community, part that's red might be strength, part that's gold might be money, part that's green might be health, whatever colors you want to use. And I was talking to a woman a few weeks ago. She had multiple sclerosis quite badly, many sites in the brain, and she went over to Russia for treatment there because they're more innovative for 6 weeks, where they destroyed her whole immune system and then rebuilt it. And she listened to that abundance waterfall every day, and she felt like that super helped her have a great response to the treatment. So, now, there's not as much excuse as there used to wallow in victim or self-pity or things. There's natural times in life where we have to grieve and, feel sad for a while, but we don't have to remain in that state for year upon year.
I believe that too. Yeah, I just had a couple of experiences with that myself yesterday, so I know exactly what you're talking about. You now I know you had brought it up, but when you were invited to Princeton to do work on this, right? Can you tell me, just go into that a little bit more about what happened at Princeton?
Sure. I was somebody generously gave Princeton a grant to bring me in to the lab, the PEAR lab, and we'll mention PEAR closed after a few years ago because they felt they had proven PK beyond any reasonable doubt. They've continued a private corporation called Sileron, but when I was there, they were very friendly, wonderful people, which helps put you at ease. They showed me a whole suite of different experiments, and I could do any one I wanted. There was one, for example, metal balls in a big bin on top near the ceiling, and when they come down, they distribute as a normal curve, so they'd be more in the middle, few at the ends. And I didn't want to do that one because it made tons of noise when it went off that way. So again, I selected the height of the fountain because that looked pretty, and I liked the idea of the kitty cat pyramids experiment they called Art Reg. So they kind of let me do things at my own pacing there. I was there a couple of days, but seeing their data In the break we were talking about Dean Radin. He's got a book, Real Magic.
Right.
His analysis of the data at this point is that telepathy, remote viewing, precognition, and psychokinesis are Six Sigma events, meaning meta-analysis shows that these are 1,000,000,000 to 1 by chance that we know something's going on. And so exposed to what Princeton knew, plus what I could see I was doing, that's what really fired me up to really do 2 more decades of practice since then on fine-tuning this, seeing the mental states that made this more likely to occur, seeing what technologies we could use to make people more powerful, even though people are naturally psychokinetic, and in crisis it may show like a woman lifting a car off her child,
Right, yeah.
That kind of thing. It's beyond her physical capacity for strength, so something weird's going on. But we don't want it just in crisis time. Psychokinesis is results-driven. The problem, if you will, in the lab for most of the experiments is they're boring. That one I mentioned, 48 seconds on, 48 seconds off, 48 seconds on, looking at a gray box to try to influence it, you lose your motivation, and it's just your pure love of science.
Right, so it's a lot easier when you do experiments in Vegas because you get rewarded with money.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
People pay, we bet small amounts of money, $5 or whatever, at a time. But even that small amount of money makes people pay attention much stronger, and we play as a team. We have tables reserved on dice just for us, and so we have a group of 18, and say you are rolling the dice, Joe. Everybody in the group is counting on you and putting money on your performance, and so your motivation to do well goes way up, because it's not just for yourself, it's for the whole group. And we even extend that to include people we never even meet. When I started the Vegas workshops, I put a blessing bucket in the corner saying, when we meet like this, people all over the world should benefit that we never even meet. And I think we've raised probably almost $200,000 by now for charity in that little bucket on the side of the room. But say when we were out there one time, one of the dealers' child, a woman, teenage girl, was in a bad car accident. 2 of her friends died, I think, and her leg was crushed and one was amputated.
Nice.
And we raised $3,500, boom, and the next 20 minutes after we had heard about this, that let the mom stay home and care for her child. We also sent the child good energy and healing, and she had a great adjustment. She ended up on Oprah talking about teen driving. And best I know, I haven't followed her for a few years now, she did really well with that huge trauma. So we try to make it beneficial to everyone. That's more powerful than just being selfish about your own manifesting, if you will.
Yeah, and when we talk about Vegas and stuff, I mean, it does seem like kind of because there's a lot of books about gambling and things of that nature, but
sure.
It does seem like, this is kind of hard to believe, but man, you've done experiment after experiment, and so you've seen all the variables, you've seen kind of what blocks us from this. And you talk about that, you talk about fear or the lack of, I guess, that type of mentality is the one thing that really hurts us the most when we're doing these things. Yeah,
the fear is a tough bugger. Fear can show up as impatience because we're afraid we're not going to get what we want, greed because we're afraid it'll be taken from us and we need more to be happy. It can show up as terror. It can show up as doubt. So using fear very broadly, when I first started doing Vegas on my own, it was like putting out brush fires of this fear, that fear, this fear. And I was trying to meet fear with courage, which can work, but it was exhausting, and eventually got to a place, I know it sounds corny, but I'd melt fear with love. When you get in this loving open heart stage, your brainwave patterns change from more left hemisphere ego-related to whole brain learning, and your heart consciousness begins to come in and soften that ego even more. So that's why we use, love is a very positive, spiritual, psychological energy anyway, but it's a dynamite energy, great energy for psychokinesis and manifesting, energy healing, those kind of things. And, if people watch a video of kitty cats or puppies or soldiers returning home from war and being reunited with their families, they may go into an open-hearted state for a few minutes, and then when something else comes along in life and bumps against them, they go back into victim, ego, what have you. We get hassled easily. So we were looking for ways that would put people in a much more consistent, enduring, positive state. Just happiness is amazingly powerful. I don't know if anybody on your show's ever talked about the experiments they do now in positive psychology. And they do things like take your picture at graduation in your yearbook, and they compare people with real smiles to fake smiles. And 20 years later, the people with real smiles are doing much better. They followed a group of nuns who all came in at the same time. They lived in the same convent, same diet, same activities all day. And the ones that when they initially came into being a nun wrote a positive essay versus a neutral essay, those nuns lived a lot longer, less health problems, reported much more success over, I think that study was over 50 years long. So just being happy has tremendous power. And yet sometimes life has given us things that it's tempting not to be happy. And so, but we have control, or at least influence that we can shift that. So, the things I avoid now from what I learned in Vegas would be like going into victim or feeling less than or feeling lack, feeling jealous of another's success. All of those are kisses of death for the kinds of energy we want to manifest a good life.
But what if we just go there and we want to manifest, we would use these methods and we just want to manifest, I don't know, a good sum of money to change our life? I could think of the thoughts that would stop me from that is maybe I don't deserve it, or this is too good to be true, or, sure, or something. Those are the things that get in our way, right?
Yeah, well, we have a culture filled with things like no pain, no gain, nothing good comes easy, easy come, easy go. All of those, even if you say to somebody, you're really lucky, that can be a criticism rather than a compliment, like they didn't work hard enough, right? So we have mental techniques to put all those limiting beliefs in a box and put it away, in a mental device box, if you will, so that we can clear our mind of that, transcend into the heart energy and feel grateful, feel like this is possible, feel like we do deserve it as well as anyone else does. I wrote a book called, the book Liquid Luck was trying to take 20 years of this experience and distill it down to a 30-minute meditation. And we use an image of creating a vial of sparkling liquid, a container in front of you, and in there putting happiness, abundance, feeling gratitude, compassion, feelings of good fortune, praise of the universe, and then whenever you want to feel lucky, you take a drink. And when that came out, within a week, people reporting selling houses that have been on the market for years and just getting 2 or 3 offers, people getting multiple job offers when they'd been jobless, people winning lotteries. One guy recently, I was at a talk in Vegas at the International Remote Viewing Association. He came up, he was the first person to ask a question. He said, I used Liquid Luck and I got 50,000, and then thought, gee, I'd like to, if I can make 50, why don't I do 100? And he got 100,000. So that was so successful. That's why I did the book, Liquid Luck Handbook, to talk about all the cool things people have done with that. And it gets pretty spooky.
Well, I think
one lady
Go ahead. Sorry. I mean, I think honestly, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to tell you about this before, because this stuff happens to us in our life, and I don't think that we really recognize it when it happens. Like, for instance, I study the occult a little bit, and a lot of what Dean Radin talks about, because I've always had this idea that, there's these powers that have been hidden from us, and whether it's been in secret societies or just in books, or maybe you really had to dig to find the information, it's always been there. And so when I started studying this stuff, Joe, I thought, man, I'm going to try this out. And I really did one time, got a little successful with it, and I really don't know how I did it, so I'm glad that I've got your material now. But, my grandmother was hurting for money, and I was in a really positive state. And she was like, hey, why don't you go buy these lottery tickets for us? And I was like, well, can I take the Camaro? Because she had a Camaro or whatever. And she can vouch for this, And and she goes, why do you want to do that? I said, well, I want to feel like I have money while I'm going up there to get it, And so I practiced this thought thing, I'm going up here to get some lottery tickets, and we're going to win a big amount of money. And it's not like I really cared about it. It's just I kind of knew it was going to happen. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
And I gave her the tickets, and I said, congratulations, that's a good amount of money right there. And she just looked at me like I was crazy and walked outside. And then she came outside, and she was like, I think I just won $600. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And so I don't know how I did that, but I think after reading some of your stuff, I think we all do this. We just don't know how to tap into it better.
Yeah, we have, again, I think it's a natural ability. We can be in a culture that makes us more pessimistic than we should be, more fearful, because, fear in the culture helps people control us. If school says without us you'll amount to nothing, religion, you can't find God without us, and politics without us, you'd be running in the streets wild, and all that kind of stuff causes us to doubt our own natural goodness, our own innate abilities. But when we put this stuff together, there's a lady, Helen Hartzell, who it seemed like every single contest she ever entered, she won. And she's got I don't think she's living anymore, unfortunately, but there is a little film about her on YouTube. And you can see she's one of the most ebullient, generous, sharing people, and most positive attitude people, and she just naturally was born that way, and maybe cultivated it some. And then she had all this good fortune. So the trick is, like with my home study course and things, when somebody has had a run of bad luck or misfortune for maybe decades, how to turn that around. And that became an important thing for me, because my brother Pete, who was very intelligent, good-looking, hard-working, honest guy, just never found work well, and other things happened, and eventually he committed suicide in Las Vegas. And I was puzzled by this. This is 20 years ago, how a good man, could have such bad things happen to him. And I found that it wasn't enough to do all the things he was doing. You also had to feel deserving and have a pretty positive attitude and reduce your fear. And again, that can be very challenging when you've had rough times. But we have technologies now that can really help you let go of that fear.
Now, my audience is really interested in the astral realm, so they'll ask questions about that quite a bit.
Okay.
I'm wondering, because it looks like the astral realm might actually be a place. I used to think it was a place just to experiment in. That's why I love the Monroe books, just reading about his documented journeys in this place, But now I'm finding that maybe it's a place where we can actually go and interact and do, spiritual work, maybe, or learn things about ourselves that we can't really learn in our day-to-day life. Do you find that the astral realm helps? Like, is there something that you can do in that realm to help you be better at this in this realm?
Einstein talking about not solving the problem at the level of consciousness it was created in. I'm going to give you an example. we mentioned Monroe has a state called Focus 10, body asleep, mind awake.
Right.
Now, the next states after that is Focus 12, which defines as a state of expanded awareness where you get knowledge beyond your 5 physical senses. So the story is, after my brother's suicide, my mom was in Alzheimer's kind of pattern, and she was looping through the guilt and things that come after suicide, the woulda, coulda, shoulda, and in a negative mood. And from my ordinary state of consciousness as a psychologist, I knew that medications wouldn't help her much. Psychotherapy doesn't work well with Alzheimer's people, etc. There was no real good solution. So I went up to this Focus 12 state, which is a more spiritual realm state, if you will, and I asked the same question, what could I do to help? And I got a feeling of great joy, and the words, be in joy. So I came back here to regular consciousness and thought, she was always happy when her kids were happy, and she had, 5 kids, and, like most moms, she wanted us to be happy more than anything else. So I made her a VCR tape at that time, so way back when they had VCRs, of kitty cats being born, birthday parties, all kinds of happy events. And she would take that and watch it over and over. It was brand new to her every 15 minutes. And it put her in a much better place and took a lot of pressure off my dad. And it was a great solution. But I would have never come to that in a regular state of consciousness. So leaping up into the spiritual realm, if you will, you can get solutions. When I gave that Liquid Luck CD to an inventor that I know, he's a guy who designed stereo speakers, and things have been going pretty rough in his business. He immediately solved an engineering problem that had been stumping his team for, I think, 3 years, and sold 500 pairs of speakers real quickly. And then the next step was he's now gotten best speaker in all kinds of categories in top magazines in the world as the best speaker worldwide. So it's practical. You can go there. And the other thing, when I first went to Monroe, I wanted to go for out of body, as we've mentioned, but I got in touch when you're in touch with the spiritual realm, of just how every drop of experience you have here is treasured by your higher self, how you're loved and appreciated and not judged, the way we tend to judge ourselves in regular consciousness. And so it's very sustaining. I did a CD called Ocean Heart. After my brother's death by suicide, it felt like it broke my heart. And I looked around for a new model rather than broken heart, and decided the model of my heart is a vast ocean of compassion and love, where if you came into my life, if I would like you in my life, it's like putting your hand in water. You'd be enveloped fully into my heart. If you leave, the water goes back to complete, perhaps losing a drop, And with that type of image, I've gone through the death of my other brother, my father, my mother, and handled them better, and also handle the kind of stresses we have in culture now. With all the political turmoil and other things in the world, there's plenty of reason to get into fear. And this ocean heart image on the ocean heart meditation really helps counter that and leaves you strong, compassionate, protected, and yet not so vulnerable as if you felt like your heart could be broken. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, so that's an example of the kind of practical tools we have now. If you just sit your butt down for a half hour, put on some headphones, close your eyes and relax, these meditations can really shift things for people.
One of the questions I want to ask, we do have to take a break, but one of the questions I wanted to ask when we come back, and we'll get the answer, is if you're just totally down on your luck, everything's gone wrong, you don't have $1 to your name, broke, busted, have every reason to hate your life, how can you win the lottery? And you use these methods to change that. And how fast can you change it? We'll be right back with Dr. Joe Gallenberger.
Roger, roll, Discovery.
How you doing today, guys? This is Garrett Lee.
And this is Randy Warner.
We're the hosts of Healers and Hellraisers, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Times are changing. The circus of politics, healthcare's low standards and high prices, and let's not forget food quality. What to do? Arm yourself with Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. In a world of chemical imbalance and poor air and water quality, it's time you make a move. Log on to GetTheTea.com and stock up on organic non-GMO supplements. Don't forget the tea. Cleansing your body never felt so good. And we have a brand new tea called Takedown Tea, which helps support healthy glucose. All natural body support so you can be at your best, naturally. All you have to do is log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. We're not a fad that comes and goes. We are the real deal. Join us and armor up. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Changing America's health one tea bag at a time.
Occult Arcana is a balanced and objective guide to those subjects considered a part of the nature of light and darkness. Addressed in this text is a compilation of material that will provide new perspectives and awaken latent abilities that we all possess. The content herein shall provide magical sustenance for adept and novice alike, and will help strengthen the cornerstone of mystic understanding and alchemical transmutation. If you are interested in this modern grimoire, you can find detailed information and ways to order by visiting www.thesecretteachings.info. Although esoteric and occult studies remain vast, they are rooted within a universal philosophy that is difficult, if not impossible by finite terms, to explain in words. Language places restriction and erects barriers to understandings. By this it is to be understood that there are some things man should consider far too sacred to profane with definition. For these concepts and the manner by which we live our lives, we shall take a note from the Greek philosopher Pythagoras. Quote, "Silence is better than unmeaning words." End quote. To get your autographed copy of Occult Arcana today, simply visit www.thesecretteachings.info or email The Secret Teachings at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on the Fringe FM.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM.
From birth, we have been conditioned to conform to what is normal, conditioned to adhere to authority, and conditioned to repeat what has been told to us as truth. I'm Ryan Gable, and here at the Secret Teachings Radio, I've interviewed hundreds of great guests and done extensive unique research into subjects that span from the paranormal and the occult to health, philosophy, and history. I personally have no affiliations or agenda, except to use objective critical thinking in my analysis of every subject discussed, to empower myself with information and hopefully allow you to do the same. If you want to join me, tune into the Secret Teachings radio broadcast, airing live Monday through Friday from midnight to 3 a.m. U.S. Pacific Standard Time on the Fringe FM. For more information, you can visit our website at www.thesecretteachings.info or email me at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Alex. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm. Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We're here with Dr. Joe Gallenberger talking about his book, Inner Vegas, Creating Miracles, Abundance, and Health. He also has a Liquid Luck and Heaven is for Healing. And the question that I wanted to ask is, I know some of you out there, because I've been there before, and I'm not trying to get down or give you the blues. Kind of cool that we're listening to Bundy while we say this, though. So you're flat broke, you're busted, you got every reason in the world to be depressed, nothing's going right. Matter of fact, bad things just keep happening. What can we do? I mean, how do we get out of this funk? And how can we manifest something really good? Because I don't think that happens a lot, because we got to get through so much clutter. I mean, I've rarely ever heard of someone that was having a bad, I guess you could say a bad time, Dr. Gallenberger, and then just all of a sudden go buy a lottery ticket, like you say, and everything changes. They do got to get out of that funk. How do we, is there a way we can instantly change it? Just bam.
Sure. Well, it's the two-part question from my point of view. One, I want to talk about lotteries. Winning the lottery, the big lottery, by PK, psychokinesis, is real challenging, because you got a million people all thinking different numbers, and one person needs a new kidney, and the other has an autistic child, and everybody's got many good reasons to win it. So that's a tough one to do PK with. Probably better is to sit down and figure what would benefit the world that I could give them. What truth could I speak? What service could I perform that could be in demand and be of service and of help to other people, and begin to put their energy that way. That's part one. And part two is, though, when you're that down and out, you first start with basics. Good food, getting proper rest, maybe going into psychotherapy or counseling or coaching, being in the beauty of nature. I have two granddaughters now, one 9 months old, one 3 months old. No matter how bad a mood I might be in, if I go see them and their innocence and their smiles, it'll elevate my mood. I love animals, dogs and cats. I live out in a beautiful place in nature. Any of the things that would elevate your mood. Sometimes something even like a Beethoven symphony that goes in the minor key and turmoil, and then sweet positive music in there somewhere, kind of gives you a mental spa to flush your energy out and begin again. Rock music with a beat can get you grounded here and maybe get you up feeling like dancing. So I would take care of basics first. The home study course I mentioned, Sync Creation, is designed to really help offload any feelings of fear, lack, guilt, and change mood around. So rather than instant the next day, a month or two later, you could find yourself in a whole different, much more positive space, energetically, mentally. So first I take care of basics. Back to the lottery, the stuff I've seen is interesting. I mentioned everybody's thinking different numbers. After 9/11, pick 3, 911 in New York. One more often than should by chance is the stuff I saw. Also, when people pick birthdays of people, loved ones, those numbers win more often than computer-picked pictures, tickets. The one person I met, he fell in love, and he was in Ohio, and he fell in love with a woman who lived in Japan. And he said, tell me what your address is. I'm going to win the lottery and come get you. And that weekend he won $21 million in the Ohio lottery and knocked on her door and got her to come over and live with him. And so his heart was wide open. But you can't go from I'm in terrible mood and terrible shape and depressed instantly to totally positive. It's a healing process, but the healing
that was my point. I was thinking because I think about the times in my life when I've had this stuff happen, when everything's going wrong, and it was never an instant switch. It just had to slowly come back as almost like a cycle, And maybe I was thinking, well, with your help, maybe we could speed up that cycle to get back on our feet again.
You can definitely speed that up, and some people never cycle up. They stay in victim, and the problem is we're in a free choice universe, and so you're free to feel unloved. You're free to sabotage yourself. You're also free to grow and take risks, and things would go better. But, small things, I'll give you an example of something that maybe I handled differently than some would. I had a very treasured kitty cat, and I was sitting on my screen porch, and a couple of neighbor dogs came along, and the cat was outside the screen porch and grabbed the cat and savaged her to death, and she died in my arms. That's a pretty negative thing, right?
Gosh.
And rather than wanting to kill the dogs or kill the owner or go into victim, I went and found the owner, and the first thing I did, he was a stranger to me, is I gave him a hug. And then I said, we have something very soulful to talk about, and I gently described what happened, and he was moved by my story and controlled his dogs from then on. But most times, I in the past and most people go into victim and blaming and guilt and
I'd have been furious. I'm just saying, I would have been.
Yeah. So in the whole scheme of life, that's not near the kind of bad things that can happen, but it's not a nice thing, and yet you can respond differently. And then when, big things happen, death of a loved one, you also have some greater freedom of response. And just even getting back to the cat, with that connection to spiritual stuff we've been talking about, when I honed in on the cat, she was pretty cool about it. She said, hey, I was 10 years old. I was losing my looks. I was due to get ill, and I'm a predator. I know the score, and I'm okay, And that could be something I just made up in my head. I don't know, sometimes. But your perspective changes. And but I have great compassion for people who are struggling. It can be a very tough planet. And one of my big messages tonight I'd like to give out is there are tools You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to spend 10 years in a monastery. For $20 you can begin, to get a CD or even find it in a library, and begin reading positive books and other things and get yourself out of the funk. If it's so deep that you're clinically depressed, then counseling, even medications at times, may be needed. But a good start is just, resting. Don't try when you're so dang tired that, it feels like everything is an effort. Get some rest first if you can, and then build up through beauty of nature, through diet, things like that. Does that make sense, Joe?
Absolutely. And, I think the one thing that I worry about the most is, in this community that we're in, and, we talk about ufology, we talk about spirituality, we talk about conspiracy. There are real experiences happening. These things that we talk about are real. And yet, my biggest flaw, and people know this about me, is that when somebody lies or I catch them lying, I'm afraid everybody's going to believe it, especially when it's like something that can be devastating. You see what I mean? Like, it's not true whatsoever. And so I worry about the gullible people when I know it's stupid to even think that, there's going to be gullible people that believe this. They're not looking at the information. And so I have this tick in my head that I go into fear mode where I think people are actually going to believe some of this. And I know it's weird to say that, but for instance, I know your research is real, right? I know that you've done scientific, I know you've been to Princeton, I know you went to the Monroe Institute, I know this stuff is actually happening, and you're still trying to figure out as you go along. But let's say this other guy comes along, and he writes a book about, how to win at gambling, no matter what, at any point in time, and it's all BS, there's no science behind it, and people are just buying this book left and right. And I say, hey, man, what you're doing is wrong. And he points at me and he says, hey, buddy, grow up. And that's when I just flip out. You see?
Yeah, well, a person can sell hope all day long, hope for weight loss, hope for whatever. And, to me it's real because for my brother's suicide and other things, I know sometimes the stakes here are very high.
Right.
If somebody is going to try something, it may be the last thing they're thinking of trying before exiting even. And so, the ethical responsibility is not to overpromise, but to give people an idea that these things work. We talked about energy healing. I've seen people heal cancer overnight.
Right.
And yet some illnesses do not shift. And the better attitude, more realistic, is illness is a very sacred thing, whether it's physical illness or mental illness. And sometimes we are maybe engaged in that for reasons we'll never understand, coming from other lives, or that we're trying to help other people learn a lesson, or we're being called to pay attention to something in our own lives. And so, most healers I know that are very powerful will say about 60% of the time they're able to deliver something that objectively they can see the benefit. And the other third of the time, for some reason, that illness is going to be staying there. In my own family, I've seen significant illness that seemed to be a clearing of generations of negativity coming from way before the World War I and World War II, and the person here is selecting to try to clear some of that for their tribe, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So these things are mysterious. I was, as a teenager, I wanted to know the answer to everything.
Right, and that's what I'm talking about. In this community, especially my audience, we like having authors on, but my show isn't just about promoting whoever and talking about whatever. Like, I really want to get to the answers to this, to talk to people that have had real experiences, and also try to get away from the deception, right, too, because we're trying to find real answers here. And
well, all I'd say, Joe, is I love answers. I love exploring. I have an amazing curiosity drive, and yet I've had to learn in my life to say I celebrate mystery.
Okay.
Because
So let it go.
Not all of it is going to come down to things that we can understand from our as Bob Monroe would say, our local perspective, if you will.
Gotcha.
So it's a strange combination of, and as I'm 68, as you get older too, you have to make death your friend, sit on your shoulder, and not generate fear, but cause you to treasure life even more.
You're not going to send me a bill for this, by the way, are you? For ranting?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, so one of the challenges here is with this very rough planet, yet with this amazing beauty and all kinds of good things that happen, how we stay out of fear, how we keep our perspective that it's all going to come out okay in the end, and yet be able to make positive change here to many of the things that really do need change right now. And
well, I do see more and more people that are following the real information in this community now. They're chasing the science of it. They're really wanting to get answers, because the mystery is just as beautiful and fun too. So I see your point there. But I do want to talk about the gambling a little bit, because I know people are curious, right? Gambling gets this negative, it gets a bad rap, right? I mean, if you think about it, it's like, don't gamble, it's bad. I know people that have gambling addictions, but listen, I watched this movie the other day that really made me think, and it was called Mississippi Grind, and it had, the guy that played in Deadpool, I forget his name in there, but the whole thing is these guys have a bad gambling, a spoiler alert, by the way, but these guys have a bad gambling issue, and yet they go all the way down the Mississippi, and they just, once they finally start winning money, they get all the way up to $125,000, and they both look at each other. They could walk away at that moment, but they said, who cares? We can't lose. And they both looked at each other and was like, we can't lose. And they let it all ride and won. So it's like a part of me thinks, well, maybe taking a chance like that, a wild chance every now in your life, especially if you're in the right state of mind, you never know what could happen.
Sure. So in the Vegas Adventure Workshops, we talked about I do an individual interview with everybody that comes out. It's only a group of 16 at a time, so we can give personal attention. And in the interview, I'm wanting to make sure that the person is not trying to go to pay their next month's house payment, that they're not going out of greed, that they're going to understand and learn about energy, and their purpose is in line with the purpose of the workshop, which is to use the gaming as feedback about this energy that can be very useful in life. And so we have things like we've had people wake up the second day of the workshop pain-free from post-polio syndrome for the first time in 20 years, and cool miracles like that. But anything can be abused: money, sex, fame, definitely, anything you can think of, power. But if used correctly, some people, I guess one of the biggest things people say to me when I talk about my workshop is, I don't gamble. And I think, gee, you came to this planet, you got married, you had kids, you're a high roller. You're taking risks with very important things. We're just taking risks with pieces of paper that are called money.
Right.
And so I wish there was a course in high school teaching people how to risk intelligently, how to be in touch with their intuition because timing is important in these things, how to generate the positive mental states we're talking about and emotional states, so that they would have success, which, good successful entrepreneurs, when they study them, they're very willing to take a risk. They have learned risk is how we learn and grow. And they're willing to fail and often do multiple times, but they have a positive attitude and a stick-to-itiveness. And usually they're trying to do something that they think will be good for the world. And that's why I mentioned that when we talked about lotteries. I think the universe really gets behind you if you are trying to do something to contribute. I'm a I'm a strong introvert. I like to sit on my mountaintop, but one way I can reach people then is through books and this radio show, and I can write my book or do the radio show in my pajamas and on my mountaintop. So no matter what your personality, you can have a large impact in the world. You have a show that's having impact, and it's amazing what happens when you start to get behind that.
I see what you're saying.
When you get in the kind of positive energies I'm talking about, it's really uncanny. I was thinking, this is many years ago, gee, I'd like to take my wife to Paris. She's never been, and I love the Van Gogh room at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. I could sit there and cry at the beauty of his paintings. And so I had that thought, and then I looked on my computer that day, and there was an email, would you like to do a training in France? I said, yep, I think I would. And then my next thought was, I'd like to go over first class round trip for free. That'd be romantic. And by the end of the day, I had free tickets round trip. And I also put out this or something better, and for me, in the good of all. And that trip resulted in a dozen workshops in Europe, including one that we did some healing around the Holocaust in Germany, another in Cyprus where we had 13 nations present and the participants, and there was good talk about how to heal the Cyprus conflict. The guy who gave me the free tickets ended up to be a business partner for many years, and we had a friendship. So all this positive can spill, even though the first thought's kind of selfish. Gee, I'd like to go to Paris. But when your energy's right, it allows the goodness of the universe to come into you if you're willing it to benefit yourself and others. So that's the attitude we're looking for. And, there's an energy barometer. If your energy's down, the world looks flat and crappy. If your energy's average, the world looks average. As your energy goes up a little higher and your heart starts to open, things look more beautiful. Music, food tastes better, that kind of thing. As your energy goes even higher, you might begin to be intuitive and begin to be able to see energy fields around the mountains, and then higher still, people. And we're looking at a very high energy state when then PK becomes possible, reliable, consistent. But you can always ask yourself, where am I on my energy thermometer or barometer? And if you're low, first thing you do is get your energy up before you even think about trying to manifest different stuff.
Right. So like before you went to, let's say before you took a trip to Vegas, before you said, okay, I'm going to go do an experiment with a group, you wanted to make sure that your energy was as best as you could get it. Your mood was right. Everything was right to be in the right atmosphere to manifest what you need to manifest.
Sure. And with practice now, 20 years, I mean, I've gone there, after the funeral of my parents, or gone after something, when there's been something negative in the culture or community, and being able to hold my energy high even if the people around me's energy is not very high. But that's one thing I didn't mention besides music, beauty of nature, good diet, is surround yourself with positive people.
Right.
People that will support you.
And people get, one thing that I find that really hurts, and I used to fall into this trap, and I know it's going to sound weird, but when you get bored, right? When you think, man, I've done it all, I've done it all, and I think that's the worst thing you can do is get bored, because there's so much to do in life. There's so many things that you haven't experienced, and not just that, the mystical stuff and experimenting with consciousness and things like that. And, you and I can talk about it freely, but back in the day, man, you could get your head cut off for talking about the stuff you and I, they would call, they would say this Joe Gallenberger, he's a sorcerer. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We live in a different world now. So how you can be bored, I don't understand that, but we do have to go into our break. I will open up the phone lines and get to some of you guys' questions that are in the chat room. If you have a question, just make sure you ask it in caps so I see it, and we'll get to those right after we come back, guys. Don't go anywhere. We're here with Dr. Joe Gallenberger, talking about manifestation and psychokinesis. Stick around.
to Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Rev Dan Lopez from Spiritual Warrior Today Radio, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Ahoy there, Gigi here.
And I'm Cortana, and we're here to take you on a journey through all things paranormal, metaphysical, ufology, and even psychedelic on our show,
Shift Happens, live every Friday night from 7 to 9 Pacific. That's 9 to 11 Central, right here on the Fringe FM.
And remember, don't feed the archons, feed ducks instead.
Duck up.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
The Fringe FM loves hearing from you. Have a suggestion, comment, or question? We're all ears. Email talkback@thefringe.fm. Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon-Mal Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts. Welcome back to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335 if you want to call into the show. It's toll-free from the United States or Canada. 1-800-588-0335. You can also text into the show at 501-777-5631. We're here with Dr. Joe Gallenberger talking about manifestation, psychokinesis, people that can actually influence their bets. I know that sounds kind of hard to believe, but if you read this book, you'll see that it actually works. There's a certain mindset, a certain energy you have to manifest these things. And, one of my curiosities is about superstition, Joe, is every time I've been to the casinos, there's so many superstitious gamblers. And they talk about, don't blow on the dice, or don't let the dice roll off the table, or this guy took my seat, and all this other stuff.
Yes.
Did you run into that too?
Yeah, and it would be easy for me to get some going. If you win $10,000 when you're wearing that red shirt, you're probably likely to want to put it back on again. and it may actually help, because it helps you, like Dumbo's magic feather. Feel like you feel better and more confident. It's interesting, though, when I talk to the dealers out there that have seen millions of hands, the dice off the table, those kind of superstitions, they say none of that comes true, but the one that does is scared money loses. And if you think about it in life, if you're more scared of being jobless than you are finding the ideal profession for you, if you're more scared of rejection than finding your soulmate, and those kind of things, yeah, that can really mess with you. So the only thing I would take out of all of that is make sure your fear is less than your desire. To me, it's almost like a mathematical formula. If I was in 90% fear and 10% desire for something, I'm going to manifest the opposite. If I'm 50-50, not much is going to happen. If I get to the place where my desire is, let's say, 70% and my fear is 30, things will start coming in slowly with glitches. If I get to a place where I'm 90% desire and only 10% fear, that's when things get synchronistic, serendipitous, and things tend to manifest positively quickly. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be 100% with zero fear, but you got to be along on that dimension where basically your intention and what you're wanting is sticking out much more prominently than your fear, conscious or unconscious fear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I remember that when I went to the what we call the boat, and I've talked about this before. We used to go down there. Everybody'd save a little cash, and we go down there, and I'd want to win so bad, and then but it never would happen. But there was just this one time, I think I won a lot of money, more than I've ever won, and I said, "Look, I don't. We're having so much fun doing this. I don't really care if I win." And I don't know if it was just because I let go of the fear of losing, but I won. I got kind of crazy about how I gambled, but I won a lot of money, and I kept this mentality is like, look, I took $30 down here, so whatever happens, I'm only going to lose $30, and that's all there is to it. And I ended up winning like $3,000 before the night was over with, before I cashed out. So that was my biggest event.
Yeah, that's a good attitude. I love when people come to the Vegas Adventure workshops with me on their birthday, because I can say to them, hey, you deserve a good birthday gift, and they're in a positive frame of mind with that. We get very precise. I'll say my goal is a royal flush in hearts on poker machine, and we know that's 160,000 to 1 by chance. If you hit it on the first roll, that's good confirmation. And on that, a $5 bet will win 4,000 or so. So, and if you find yourself able to do that consistently, then of course your confidence goes up. You begin to, I'm going to tell you a story I don't often tell, but when I'm at a slot machine, what I'm thinking of is, first I think of all the abundance I have in my life, and I have natural joy for that. I feel very grateful for my family. And then I begin entering into connection with the world of spirit by thinking of my mother and father and brothers who have passed. And I'm sitting there having this love conversation with them, if you will, where I'm feeling their energy and sending love and appreciation of how much they've meant in my life. And then I just look up and say, oh, well, let me pull this lever here, and I usually win. But I'm in a wide open heart space. I'm not greedy. I'm having a good time. My family, naturally, gaming came pretty naturally when I can remember being 5 years old, sitting on my relative's lap as we were taught card games as a kid, as my grandmother was baking cookies in the kitchen and bringing them out to eat. So gaming for me has got a lot of positive associations, regardless of the money one. And that all helps me get where I need to go to be in the state where I create what I want. But, I can kind of tell when somebody comes in, even that blessing bucket I mentioned that we have in the workshop, if people fill that with generosity and donations before we even go to the tables, I know it's going to be a great group. If people are tight with their money and feeling like, well, I might put something in if I win, it's not going to go as smoothly, because you want to be, you set a budget like you did. I'm not going to go more than this $30, but within that budget, then you got to be really free to play. And I think play is the deepest form of prayer that adults can do, because play implies trust in the universe and puts your trust into action. So whether it's playing at learning how to dance or playing at whatever, including playing at the gaming tables, it can be a form that's quite prayerful if you're there feeling, very positive and loving.
Now, have you guys, do you still go down and you still do these groups?
Yeah, I got one coming up in 10 days. They usually fill with wait list. And then I have one with 2 spots left, February 9 to 11 in 2019. I usually go about 4 times a year with new folks, and then once a year with folks that have been before. I've had some people take this workshop 20 times. They enjoy it so much.
This is so crazy, man. You can go to Egypt with Robert Schuck, or you can go to Vegas with Dr. Joe Gallenberger. But either way, you're going to have a spiritual experience. I think this is cool, man.
It's fun to bring the spiritual into that environment. When initially I was thinking of doing this, I had a I was in a meditation and kind of got a message. Haven't you learned yet, son, how much fun it is to light a candle in the darkness? And I kind of look at that. Sometimes the crews out there even get kind of teary and say, would you send us some of this positive energy? We love when you come in. Crews volunteer to stay after their shift is over to man our tables because they feel so much positive energy there.
Now, is it like the movies? If you start winning a lot, do these guys in suits come around and start wondering if you're cheating the system? Has that ever happened to you?
I would not try to do this in blackjack because they watch for card counters, and you have to be in a good house. So The Riviera, for example, which I think is now closed, if you went in there and started winning even a little bit, they would hassle you. They'll slow things down, refuse to bring you a drink, that kind of thing. If you go to a good house, then they like winners because everybody around is noticing somebody's winning. And, we play with small amounts of money, so that something like the MGM properties on a fight weekend might have $2.6 billion in their vault. If we go and we're taking 1,000 off the table, that's pocket change for them. And so, they do watch us quite carefully. They've filmed us and things, but they say, Joe, when your group comes in, that whole part of the casino fills with more people because they hear all the cheering, because we're cheering whether we're winning or losing. And then when you leave, the myth is that the table's hot rather than the roller, so that people will play for hours on the table, seeing how well the table went when we were there. So they say, Joe, you take us for a little bit, but we make it up pretty quickly. And so they're okay with us being there. But the first place we played was the Sahara, and we won, I think, almost every session we played for the first 3 workshops, and they invited us not to come back. And then we went over
they
to the
invited
Stardust.
you not to come back. I like how you said that.
Yeah. Then we went to the Stardust, which is also no longer in business. And we played there several years, and a lady complained about her room, and management pulled the record of the workshop, and everybody had won every session. And they just said, Joe, we don't, you don't merit a casino host because we're not making any money off you. And lately, for the last at least 8-10 years, we've been at Palace Station, and they've treated us really well. So, so far, so good. We stay there.
And what's the, just out of curiosity, what's the biggest win you've seen someone pulling off using these methods?
In the tens of thousands. I'm just going to leave it like that.
Just say that, okay.
So, I want to keep everybody's privacy.
Yeah, I hear you. I got you. But, the sky's the limit, really. That's what I'm trying to figure out here. What is the potential of the human mind? What's this whole left brain, right brain thing that I've kind of seen in science, and I've also seen in occult books, and, the human potential I'm really fascinated by. And, I still think that it's been hidden from us for a long time, and we're just now starting to tap into it.
Yeah, I think we're continuing to evolve. If you look at most graphs of the last 500 years, the amount of starvation and war and disease and everything has, plummeted down, and other things positives have gone up. And in terms of our limits, 26 years training in Monroe Institute, I've just seen lots of cool and spooky things, from teleportation to levitation to all this psychokinesis stuff we've mentioned, remote viewing where people can see things without regard to time or distance. Joe McMonagle is one of the Monroe family's husbands, and I think he's one of the best remote viewers in the world. He finds lost children, works for government in the past quite a bit, very precise types of information, including seeing the other side of planets before we've ever sent a probe there, and then finding information confirmed when we finally do send a probe. So I think we have ability to tap into any knowledge at any time and anywhere, probably in the universe, but definitely on planet Earth. So on our psychic abilities, they're quite wide open. To try to levitate an entire car across from one side of the street to the other, I haven't personally seen, but I've heard stories and had experiences where people feel that they've teleported a lot more than we're using. There's a good book I read recently called Wings of Ecstasy about a Catholic monk back in, I think, the 1600s. He would levitate and be in the air for a half hour at a time. He could be two places at once. He did all this healing work. And the church really, through the Inquisition, kept trying to discredit what was going on. And it would be witnessed by hundreds of people. He went through 2 Inquisitions, which is a miracle in itself that you survived that. And they couldn't find that he was making anything up, if you will. So they validated a lot of stuff. So our potential sometimes has been there as a glimmer, even back hundreds of years ago. You think of the oracle at Delphi, you think of some of the Egyptian systems of magic, if you will.
Right.
But now the veils seem thinner, and people are able to leap into this stuff more often or more commonly if it's of interest to them. So we're at a time of great fear, but we're also at a time of great growth in consciousness. And physics is coming along even to support how this stuff might even work.
Yeah, I know Thomas Campbell has been on here and discussed that he's doing some more experiments to get more evidence about the consciousness system. And speaking of that, you know, it's something that I've brought up and other people that have brought up. Actually, you know what? Before I get into that, I've skipped over some questions. I want to make sure that I ask them that are in the chat room. Now, I know Paris is in the Spreaker chat, and I believe that she said that she wants to make her mother telepathic. Her mother is hard of hearing. Is there any way that she could help that happen, I guess? And I'm not so sure if she's talking about being able to speak to her mother through the mind. I mean, it's one thing to teach yourself that, but can you take your material and...
Yeah, I would not use the word make her mom telepathic, but her mom was receptive. There's some natural telepathy often between children and parents. My wife was uncanny knowing when her kids were skipping school, for example, and would go to town and find them in a particular store just by I think I'll go in that store. So there's some natural bonds there. And if a person encouraged more natural bonding, both people relaxed, feeling very loving with each other, and then they could even practice saying, I'm thinking of something, Mom, tell me what it is, or draw it. This type of thing can be practiced. It'd be almost in the area of like remote viewing, if you will. The meditation CDs we've talked about can trigger more telepathic states in people as well as other kind of psychic effects. Of the ones that I've put out, something like Ocean Heart or Healing Heart might be enjoyable for both of them to listen to and see if they could get into simpatico and then see if they could talk more. So I don't know. That's about the best I could answer that. And of course, I'd also look at objectively, could there be things that could aid her hearing? Hearing aids have become very sophisticated nowadays, although expensive. But if she relaxed with her mom and her mom was receptive, they could play with some telepathy and see what would happen.
Yeah, you also discuss there's something that I've dealt with in my life. I've had my own experiences with it about dealing with depression and how you can overcome it using these methods. Now, I only understand a certain level of, I guess we can all only understand our own levels of depression and anxiety, but there are people out there that, they just swing from one thing to another. And I used to think it was a fallacy. Because I was raised by someone that didn't really believe in that stuff. Oh, it's all in your head. There's no such thing as depression. But it's real. And a lot of people are struggling with it. Would you use these methods to help with that as well?
Yeah, I had depression, and it ran in my family, but I had pretty significant depression from maybe 8 or 9 years old till my 30s. So I, as I mentioned earlier in the show, I have a lot of compassion when people are struggling with that. there's a continuum. Usually we could, begin to feel downtrodden and have negative thoughts, but at some point, biologically, we get out of whack, and neurophysiologically. Signs of that in depression would be that our sleep is very much disrupted, that we don't have the energy to get simple things done like keep the house clean, that we begin to be paralyzed in our decision-making. Those kind of things at that point we'd call clinical depression, and it's good to get some real help with that. The home study course I mentioned, Sync Creation, some people in that situation have benefited by that because we have individual coaching with me as part of that course. But, again, I would emphasize to them, let's get the basics first of being able to eat well, sleep well, be surrounded by positive support, and go from there. But going from there makes sense compared to just sitting in that for year upon year.
Now the blocks that we have when we are doing our out of body stuff, like I have certain, Catalina asked in the chat room earlier, she was wanting to know if you'd actually traveled to any other planets or talked to any beings. It's a question that, I could be talking about rocks and someone's going to ask, has your guest talked to aliens?
Yeah.
And I think it's because there's so many stories out there of people that have actually talked to beings or things from a different realm. I've even got a book from Sue Walker because I think if it's real, I want to know about it. Did you ever encounter anything like this in these astral realms?
Well, a couple of things. In real life, I was on a balcony on the 21st floor of a Vegas hotel, broad daylight. We had just been meditating, and we went out on the balcony for a break. And I saw 3 bright lights come and do a physically impossible dance and then head off into the horizon. In terms of my own personal meditation, this hasn't been a real high area of interest, but I have felt like that if I call in energies, let's call it Arcturian, pick on one system, if you will, I can feel like there's a connection and maybe some telepathic understanding, if that makes sense.
It does, because I'm getting the feeling that, and I don't know this, I can't prove it, but based on all the guests I've talked to and the books I've read, I'm getting a feeling that either we're being watched, we're being grown, or I guess you could say farmed, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it feels like that there's something else there watching us all the time.
Be honest with you. I'm coming from a place where the word alien is troublesome in terms of, to me, male, female, earthling, Arcturian, Palladian are basically only clothes we're wearing. That the deep oneness that connects all of sentient creation is more important than what particular role we're in at a given moment. But I've even working as a therapist, I might work with somebody for 2 or 3 years, and we get through all the issues. And at that point, they really trust me, and they're finishing, and they say, Joe, something I've never mentioned in all these years of therapy, but I trust you now. And they'll talk about a experience we might call an abduction experience, where they're in bed and they feel paralyzed, and some being comes into their awareness who may do this or that with them, and then they have some physical manifestations. It wasn't just something they were making up in their mind. My concern is that as a psychologist, I also know that the sleep paralysis state and the dream state can create feelings that might lead someone to think they were abducted.
Right.
Or we could explain it in a different way. But I would not rule out that sometimes folks have alien contact. It's just not my big cup of tea, if you will, area of specialty.
Yeah, and I make a promise to ask all questions, so I try to anyways. So I ask. Sure. I know it's a little off topic, but I had to find out because you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Just like when I was reading Bob Monroe's books, I thought it was just going to be all about getting out of the body and experimenting with that, but then he started running into entities that he couldn't explain and things that really didn't want to be around him. And I was thinking, well, I mean, what's wrong with humans? And is there something innately or negative about us that maybe these entities we're not ready for yet? And so,
Joe, there's a big debate that I've seen over the 2 decades up in Moreau that some people feel that Earth is the most kindergarten place you could be, and we don't have our acts together. And other people feel it's a graduate school, and if you can successfully be an Earthling, you're respected throughout the universe, because it is such a tough planet to deal with the emotional level that we have, and to try to control our consciousness and our emotions in this environment of survival. And I'm not sure. I think paradoxically it might be both.
Well, we do got to take our network break here, but I did want to talk about that, like what's going on in the society today. Some of the teachings that you have in here and how it's affecting us, because you can definitely see it for sure. Just how some of these fundamental things that you speak of are in our day-to-day lives and in our politics and social media, the media, and how it's affecting us. We'll be right back with Dr. Joe Gallenberger. You guys don't go anywhere. Out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of...
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Elle. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing his journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
How you doing today, guys? This is Garrett Lee.
And this is Randy Warner.
From the Healers and Hellraisers podcast.
A podcast about people.
You're going to hear stories from the enlightening to the frightening.
Told by those who lived it.
Listen right here on the Fringe FM.
Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And on the Fringe Free-For-All, right here on the Fringe FM. Follow the Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at the Fringe FM.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass, because you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Shithead.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of The Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to The Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code TALK to get $10 off your first box. As a special bonus, we'll include our #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com.
Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm. Tomorrow night on the program, we're going to be speaking with Bruce Smith. We're going to be talking about the mystery of D.B. Cooper. We've got even more intense guests coming down the line. If you do want to call in and ask any questions, the call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. The text-in number is 501-777-5631. We're here with Dr. Joseph Gallenberger, and we're talking about psychokinesis, manifestation. We've actually been talking about Vegas a lot, too, and that's because of his book. He's got a book called Liquid Luck, Enter Vegas, and how can people get started with this material? Do they need to start with Liquid Luck?
Well, Liquid Luck book and CD would be a great place to start, cheap, if you will. Liquid Luck is, as a book, is available on Amazon or a signed copy through my website, liquidluckbooks.com. And the book and CD go together really well. If you're the CD is one to meditate with all this binaural beat technology we've talked about, and it usually is a good place to start because it can generate real quick results, and so people go, "Wow, this stuff really works." And then again, the most extensive thing I have is a Sync Creation home study course that has lots of exercises, 3 coaching hours with me, that kind of stuff. And if the Vegas gambling, psychokinesis, and the history of the things in the science laboratories appeals, then the Enter Vegas book, Enter Vegas, Creating Miracles, Abundance, and Health, which is available on Amazon or my website, is a good read as well. And I think that's what you're reading right now, right, Joe?
Yeah, Enter Vegas. Yeah.
Finding it interesting?
Oh, yeah. The dice on the front of the cover is what got me, because it's like I want to win, but then it says, Creating Miracles, Abundance, and Health. What got me about this book is because, like I said in the beginning of the show, is I've had my own experiences with this that maybe I tapped into a time or two and can't really explain. And so learning about why that worked is really cool. But another thing that concerns me, and I'm sure it concerns a lot of people, is how our society is keeping us from being able to do these things, or how it affects us. Because maybe it helps sometimes, but it just seems like with social media and the news. And I mean, do you get on social media at all that much?
Not too much. I have, I'll post friends kind of stuff. I don't get into the political stuff online. I don't listen to broadcast media. Again, I hold my energy. I treasure my energy being high. So I surround myself with good people and beauty of nature and those kind of things. My concern is that fear is rampant right now, and particularly after 9/11, and our fear of attack and things since then, we've given up a lot of freedoms. I mean, now, the government can take us away under Homeland Security with no charges, no lawyer, and not tell our families where we would be. They can go to our libraries and look at all the books we've read and not tell us they've been there to look at. So we've given up some things because we're fearful. And, people in power can catch on that, if we keep people in fear, we can control them. So I think one of the hugest things, our challenge to do for ourselves and our kids and our community is to stay out of fear. People are good. It's not reported in the news. My wife was she takes a trip, what she calls a goddess trip, once a year with her best female friends, and they're at the beach in North Carolina at the Outer Banks where there's bad rip currents. And there was a guy out there drowning, and all the people on the beach got together and they formed a human chain with dog leashes and holding hands. The two people in deepest water didn't even know how to swim, and they rescued him. That story never gets even in the news, And there's millions of acts of kindness, of sacrifice each day by ordinary human beings. Yet if you just watch the news, you'd think that everything's going to hell in a handbasket, So we got to keep out of fear, and that's one of the biggest reasons I do what I do is.
Well, I think you just explained it too. I kind of lost you there. I hope I'm not losing my connection with you, but that kind of does explain it. You explained it there a little bit, and I'll try to get him back, guys. But we relish in our fear too much. We talk about conspiracy all the time, and it's something that I don't know if people are addicted to it or they just realize it, and I don't know, because I want to talk about it too. I want to talk about these things, but I don't want to scare everybody. And it's kind of funny that just as soon as he starts talking about that, we lose the line. That's happened to me. I can't tell you how many times on this show. But I don't. You got to be careful about talking about conspiracy and stuff. The phone tends to go off when you do that, especially when you're talking about the
when
government.
did that happen? What did you hear last?
Well, you were just talking about social media and how you don't see good stuff in the news. You don't see all the kindness.
So you got
happens.
most of that.
Yeah,
and,
so we're relishing our fears.
Yeah, so I'm just I just followed that up with. That's why I feel it's so important for us to be in a positive place and to have tools that allow us to reset our energy, because we get stimulation every day that would say, you should be fearful. And I know as a father and a husband, I want to protect my family, and I want, to protect the people I love. And but if we're in survival mode, we're not gonna evolve very far. So I think last thing I said is I have a very good feeling about the world my grandkids will live in, but we got some challenging times before that.
Well, I think that we kind of relish in it a little bit too much, and that's what I was saying while I was trying to get you back on the phone. Is because I remember when Ozzy Osbourne, of all people, one of the most famous rock stars on the planet, when they did a documentary about him, and he said, "Man, I was starving to death. I didn't have any food to eat," and I think the name of their band was called Earth. And he left a theater, and there was a movie on called Black Sabbath. And he said the line was just packed out of the door, right? Because he couldn't figure out why people wanted to be scared They just wanted to get scared, right? And so that's why they named the band that, and then switched up their whole style. And it's kind of like our society revels in our own fear. And I know Halloween's coming up, and so there's something to that I'm not real sure what's happening.
Well, when we get our survival instincts triggered, it makes us feel very alive, because we're in crisis mode. And, some people don't understand that I saw as a psychologist very early in my practice was that stress and fear is like amphetamines. Amphetamines activate the system, and then when you don't have them anymore, you go into first feeling depression and kind of empty, and you have to reset and rebuild the body, mind, spirit after, if you're an amphetamine user. Stress users, if you will, our culture, if you've been under lots of stress and you just stop, you're going to feel kind of uncomfortable and out of sorts and maybe exhausted and then a little depressed until your natural biochemicals build back up because you've been in crisis mode. And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
We're in kind of perpetual crisis, so when you're in there, you just want to press the button again, like another cup of coffee, just to avoid the letdown.
Ah, okay, I see. It's good. I'm talking to a therapist here to explain that a little bit. But I've had my own experiences with it. And I know other people have too with anxiety, where when the terror of the panic attack is over. You're talking about the biochemical stuff. I remember it would just put my body through so much chaos, and I was having like 2 or 3 a day, that I would not even know if I was in reality afterwards because everything just felt so weird,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they talk about it as depersonalization. Things can feel not even real anymore, derealization. But again, we get back to, gosh, there's tools now.
Right.
And then you don't have to live that way, and you actually build up a stress tolerance if you meditate regularly or use these kinds of binaural beat tapes regularly, and that you have a much greater resilience and resistance to that kind of stress. And people can't push that stress button on you as easily. So that you roll with punches better. Certain professions, I have a son-in-law who's an EMS person, right? He goes out every day and sees terrible car accidents and, people treating themselves and their loved ones badly. And he's learned to respond to that professionally, which means that you stay relaxed, you stay focused, you stay, what can I do to help this situation? So good nurses, EMS people, good policemen, they've done stress training, if you will. And we can do that as well without having just to handle the normal things of our lives. And a big thing, give a big commercial for meditating, which is difficult to do. People get distracted or fall asleep because they're tired, and that's where these binaural beat meditations that you can find on my website and also on Monroe come in real handy.
Well, I can say I think that it's also, when it comes to fear, that's the only payoff you get is fear. Why not go the other way when you get the bigger payoffs in life? Health, wealth, relationships. Is like the total opposite of fear. Love is the ultimate thing. And I know when you start talking about psychokinesis, I automatically think about the mind, right? Well, he's talking about using your mind. But in your book, you really talk about this actually it comes from the heart, which I find interesting.
Yeah, it's the mind is, like the steering wheel. It sets direction of intent. But the heart is where you're going to get the energy to get that intent activated and created in your life. And so that's, if you could be in one thing or the other, I'd want your heart to be in the right place even more so than your mind, if you will. Both are highly valuable, and I'm not denigrating the mind, but it can only take you so far, and the mind can become like a squirrel running around in a cage if you're in fear, and just keep putting up more and more reasons to be afraid. So it's the art of it is to use your good mind to do problem solving and planning, write things down. What can I do to fix this? What's out of my control? What's the next step I take to fix this? You know, if I were jobless, maybe the first step is to write a resume. But if your energy's all messed up, it's going to go really hard compared to how it can go smoothly and synchronistically if you got your energy in the right place. And good sign of that is you feeling wide open-hearted.
Now, you also wrote another book called Heaven is for Healing, and this was based on your experiences when your brother passed away, right?
Yes. So, as I mentioned, my brother Pete committed suicide. That was tough to take because our culture is very negative to suicide. In the Roman times, they'd take away the whole family's property. Middle Ages, that continued. Suicide's still a felony. I wanted to write a book that said maybe it's you're received in spirit with compassion and love, and yet I didn't want to write a book that would incentivize suicide. So I did my own spiritual questing and meditations, and also talked to who I think was the best channeler in the world. And we had conversations with my brother about what happens on the other side after any death, including ones where, you know, the person is left by suicide or things like that. And frankly, you know, I think suicide is an uncomfortable topic because if all of us, if we're not fully expressing our potential, we're in a way suiciding to part of who we could be. And
you got that right.
Yeah, so it's in the shadow of our culture. But what I found is that every experience is treasured. We're all met with love and compassion. All death leads to light. After an act such as suicide, there's a great variety of response, from I only had a week to live and I was in terminal cancer pain, to the impulsive teenager because they got a bad mark, to somebody that's been in 30 years of depression. And everybody's handled individually there. Usually there is a life review, and also what things would have been like if I stayed, and you're held in loving compassion as you see the effects of your life and what you've done. And then there's a period of learning, sometimes even pretty intellectual, like classroom type of setting, to learn how life works a little better. And
How do you know about all this?
Well, this is what I'm getting through my own guidance, as well as the channelings I've had with, I think, a person in touch with my brother talking about what it's like there.
Fascinating.
And he even says that some people with very rough lives don't want to come back, and they can have kind of a simulated life over there, kind of an Olympic training for a real one, because it can feel very real, but it's more like a lucid dream, and you don't have all the problems coded into your DNA and the physical, and it can happen in a non-time space, so it can happen quickly compared to Earth time, and so you can learn in those simulated lives before you come back again to see what you can do here on the planet. So if the book Heaven is for Healing, you know, what's been satisfying to me is I've gotten quotes such as, this story has touched me so deeply in parts of my heart I never felt anyone could reach or understand. I've never felt so understood or embraced. Your book has brought me more peace and comfort than literally any other forms of consolation received. So I did find that people who've had suicide in their life like the book a lot, but also people that have lost somebody in any kind of death, a friend or something, and through natural death, but they're just missing them, or wondering what like the afterlife might be like, worried about, you know, things like judgment and stuff like that.
Well, it seems like you're spot on with it, because there's some other books that talk about those things too that are I don't know if you're familiar with, I think his name is it Michael Newton or Journey of Souls?
Yes.
That book was amazing to me. And I've always wanted to speak to a hypnotist that could do that, to go in between lives. Because I always wondered, when I was brought up in, a religious atmosphere that taught me that if you committed suicide, it was a terrible thing. But after reading all these books, and even like your book, Heaven is for Healing, you realize that you've got love. I can't really explain the beings, but these things that are just trying to heal you, and you've got your own choices in this other place. You don't really have to do anything. It's almost like all these things we were taught are just something that we just came up with because we really don't know,
Yeah. I was down in New Orleans giving a talk at a remote viewing conference, and we went on a ghost tour afterward, and it started at the main big church by the river, which used to be the site of government plus the church. And the lady was started to say that when somebody took their life back then, I think it was 1700s, they would bring the body into the church. They would torture it for hours, so like an inquisition. Of course, the body couldn't answer, so they'd condemn that body. They'd put it on a wagon wheel and run it through town to get rid of the arms and legs, cut the rest up into pieces and feed it to the alligators because that was unconsecrated ground, so demons could torture it for all eternity.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
That's the heaviness we come to with suicide in our culture. And like my mom was raised Catholic, and when my brother died, she felt like, how could I ever be at peace when I die, when knowing my son was in hell for all eternity? So that's why I wrote the book.
Well, good on you for writing it, because
it's not, and yet it's, the first part of the book does talk about how terrible the act is on the people left behind, and how that's one of the main reasons it's not a good option in most circumstances. So it's written from the heart, and it's to me tells it like it is, both how it is for the people here, what happens to them there. It's called Heaven is for Healing, and it's on Amazon or through my site too. And heavenisforhealing.com, I think, will get you there. But
so you've seen both sides of this. I mean, you've seen both sides, the polarity of love and fear. Definitely, I'm sure with patients of yours, you've experienced it. I mean, you've led a pretty eventful life, and it's amazing to me that out of all of the things that have happened in your life and the really cool experiments that you've done, you've found that just the general, positivity that's the way to be, for sure, right? That's the way to be, to get things the way you want. But to actually tap into that, to manifest things in this physical realm as well.
Yeah. And Joe, it's got to be real. It can't be stiff upper lip kind of thing or whistling in the dark. You have to genuinely feel the love and your connection with the world and with spirit. But there's ways now to tap into that, even if life has been rough.
Do you feel like that there are people here, some people say that there's angels or guides unaware that are here trying to help us to realize this?
I think so. I use the term guide broadly, but I've, pondered a question. I'll get 3 emails back from different people, all not knowing each other, telling me to read the same book, or I'll see feathers when the answer is yes. As a exterior sign of confirmation when I'm thinking a particular thing. I've had my mom came in to me as I was waking up one morning. She had been dead for a few years, using the term dead like we do. And she just said to me in a voice as clear as Ma Bell, your dad's going to die soon and it's no big deal. And very lovingly. And in fact, he did pass on then quite soon after that. So I've had messages, I've had feelings that are guidance. First time I heard the word Starbucks, I got a big glowy feeling. I called my broker. He had never heard of the company. It was that far along ago, and he looked it up and said, oh, they're going to open coffee shops. Don't invest in that. That'll never go. But I'd take all of those things, your own gut feelings as guidance, words that come into your head. Sometimes you meet just the person who blesses you that day with something, and it's good to ask for that and affirm it's around you and be grateful that it's around you.
I think that's the perfect thing to say about all this. I know we only got a few minutes left here with you. We're going to take our last break, guys. We'll be right back with Dr. Joe Gallenberger. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Nights on the Fringe FM just got even better. You wanted more live late night programming?
Do it live!
Now you've got it. Don't miss Lighting the Void with me, Joe Roop, at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. There's something more to it. And bringing us home is Ryan Gable.
The Secret Teachings radio broadcast.
At midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. Live all night and the best of the Fringe FM all day. The truth is out there, and so are we. This is the Fringe FM.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Lighting the Void is proud to announce Mind and Magic's Protection and Defense Course for protection from magical and psychic attacks. This is not a joke. Magic practitioners are on the rise, and with that comes attacks from baneful or black magicians that try to harm or hurt others for their own selfish reasons. If you are not a believer in psychic attacks, then this isn't for you. If you are, and you want the power to defend yourself and your family and home, then I highly suggest you grab Freighter Xavier's Protection and Defense Course. In this course, you will learn how to tell if you are under attack from a natural source or if an individual is attacking you. The 4 forms of curses and attacks. How to remove self-imposed curses. The correct way to cleanse your home from negativity or malevolent entities. How to make your own holy water. What you should always keep near or under your bed. Herbs that banish negativity and promote purity. The most powerful banishing rituals on the planet. And for those that seem to want to harm you the most, how to put your enemies in a hell pit of their own making. You can also learn protection against shadow people and other entities. Or are you just in a bad planetary alignment? Even how to get rid of an enemy using a tic-tac box. It does not matter what your faith or belief is, this will work. Click the banner on the website at lightingthevoid.com or go to lightingthevoid.com/Xavier.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You know, I think this discussion validates a lot of our previous shows, a lot of our previous discussions, that life really ain't that bad. And life might actually be one of the coolest things and experiences to have in the universe. We're here with Dr. Joseph Gallenberger. We're discussing his books, Liquid Luck, Inner Vegas, and Heaven is for Healing. And it's been a real pleasure talking to you, I got to say. But I do want to know your opinion on this, because I'm starting to really believe this. The more I go through this journey, that the spirit realms and the physical realms are both not bad places to be, actually. Because you hear a lot of talk about ascension and all these other dimensions, and it sounds really cool, and yet when you talk about spirit and people that have actually experienced these things, a lot of times they just want to live again and be in the physical realm. And so I think while we're here, you have actually tapped into a way to manifest good things and play a little bit and have fun in this reality. And I think that's really cool.
Well, you know, Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. I think you can make this place hellish or very heavenly for yourself and your community, in that direction at least. And it's not saying that bad things won't happen, but your attitude about them can be dramatically different one person to another. You know, so Mother Teresa, living in all the poverty and filth and disease that she worked in, still was a person with deep joy in her heart, best I know. And in the world of spirit, too, I think our attitude and openness is going to govern a little bit of what we experience there. And so it may be easier to tap into the light when you're in the light there. But there's something really special about having a body and being able to give another person a physical hug, and the taste of chocolate and all of that stuff. One of the things when I did the Heaven is for Healing book, as they said, is any experience you have here on Earth, if you would like, almost like a lucid dream or a very vivid dream, you can re-experience there. So if you wanted to remember the taste of an orange, it would be very vivid over there. So there is a treasuring of the sensory experience we have here. And so I guess I'm with you. Both areas could be very neat.
Well, speaking of playing it, while we're here in these physical bodies and playing and having a great time as much as we can and spreading as much love as we can, there's a question in the Spreaker chat, sorry, I thought it was in the other chat room, about, hey, that Dr. Joe talked about his trip to Vegas, and he brought up dates, and they were just wanting to know when you were going to do that again and how they could get involved if they wanted to go with you.
Sure. The next dates open would be February 9 to 11, 2019. If you go to my website, innervegas.com, You will see good information about the workshop. As I mentioned there, rather than signing up for the workshop online, you'll need to call, and the number is there, and we have an individual interview just to make sure the workshop's a good fit for you and answer any questions you have. So to sign up, you would give us a call at the number on my website, either syncreation.com website, innervegas.com, and you could sign up.
Another thing that I think people could do, and maybe we might do this, maybe the Void Walkers community might come hang out with you sometime, but we could probably take your material as well and do these experiments on our own once we went through all the courses and stuff, I would think.
Sure. People, some people have made this part of their monthly budget because they win so regularly, and they have a lot of fun doing it, you know. From my point of view, there's easier ways to make a living than gaming.
Sure.
But it's nice to be able to get some funds, have some fun with it, come back, give some to charity, give some to your kids, buy some clothes, whatever, and just have a good time with it, and then learn a lot in the process.
You know, I got to admit, though, taking a trip to Vegas with some spirit science types folks doing an experiment to win a little bit of money and knowing that it's probably going to happen if we do things right. It sounds really fun to me, though.
Yeah, we have a ball. We do. It's a lot of laughs, a lot of people feeling, you know, that they really lifted their energy. I know one woman came and she had lost her daughter through death and was in grief, and she came. By the end of the weekend, she was smiling, and then when she went home, she emailed me and said, "Joe, I won $38,000 in penny slots over the next few months, just $5,000 here, $5,000 there, that kind of thing." And it sent me the email copies of the W-2s, the tax forms, and so it tends to raise people's energy well. And
does it help to be in a group? Because in my situation, I know I got all kinds of stuff rattling around in my head. Does it help to be in a group?
We meditate as a group. We support each other well. That helps a lot. Get over the jitters. Having the laughs. But people will, really take care of each other well. So it's. We look for people who play well with others, if you will, and not too selfish, focused based, because we do it as a team experience, if you will.
And is it is the craps game, is that your favorite one to do as a group? I would think that would be fun.
Yeah, that's what we use. We also, some people play blackjack or things on the side, roulette and all, but we've had a roulette hit that was $1.6 billion to one by chance, for example. But mainly we focus on the dice tables as a group, and then sometimes I'll give a little group tutorial on how to play video poker slot machines and things if people are interested.
Now, just out of curiosity, and you don't have to answer this, but, I mean, you seem like a normal guy with a normal life and a wife and everything. Does your wife is she not wondering why you're out partying all the time? I mean, are you out partying all the time?
She comes with me. She's been to 60 of these workshops, and she was up at Monroe Institute. We actually met up there. So she's taken probably a half dozen, at least, Monroe Institute programs. So we're both on the same page on this stuff.
I'm sure that she's had some pretty good experiences with it, too.
She she doesn't like me to brag on her, but in dice, if you hold the dice for 5-6 minutes, it's a pretty long time, because when the 7 comes out at the wrong time, which is 1 every 6 times, it ends. And she's rolled, I think, for 90 minutes, a time or two, and had some really good hour-long rolls, things like that. So she came out to Vegas initially not liking the environment, and has learned to, I think, really enjoy it because she finds it beneficial to her energy.
I can't believe that you've been asked not to come back to, I mean, I guess I can believe that you've been asked not to come back to certain casinos, but It's just funny to me.
Again, I want to make the point that that's very polite.
Yeah,
the old myth of break your legs. These casinos are now owned by corporate, and if you even had a slight hassle, you could complain to the MGM Corporation and sue them if you needed to. So they'll treat you well in most places there.
Well, I love Vegas. I got to tell you that I went there one time. I just on a whim hopped on a plane, went out there. I didn't gamble one bit because I was just so amazed. I felt like I was in another world. But I've lived in Arkansas my whole life. I've never seen anything like that. So I didn't get to gamble at all.
It's a very different environment, and they have, Cirque du Soleil has, I think, at least 6 shows out there. Their show, Mystère, I've seen multiple times, and I'd come back in physical incarnation just to see that show. It's so beautiful.
Funny you say that. You'd come back in physical incarnation just to see that show. Do you believe in the official way of karma, or more like Michael Newton's Journey of Souls type karma, or we're just trying to figure stuff out?
I think his book is good. I think the law of love can transcend the law of karma, meaning a lot of what might go on from one life to another we're doing to ourselves out of our free will, feeling we want to experience both sides of the coin, or that we need to do something. So I don't feel karma is, come back 100 times as a spider if you did whatever. But there is cause and effect, and we do have free will. And with love, we can transcend, and grace, we can transcend and avoid maybe some of the things that could be negative. And I've just seen too much evidence of miracle and grace in people's lives at times.
Now, on a realistic level, if someone picks up your programs and your meditation CDs and your books, how much practice do you think it takes after we get this stuff? I mean, does it take weeks or months? Because some of this is paradigm shifting.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen overnight, I wouldn't think, but maybe it has.
Well, the Liquid Luck book and CD are designed that some people have had results the first time they listen to it, so pretty much instant.
Okay.
The home study course is designed, and it's designed, Liquid Luck, to give you a taste of this. The home study course designed to really go as deep as possible into shifting the whole attitude to life. It can become a lifelong yoga of ever-increasing heart energy, positive manifesting. Most people take a few months to get through that because there's a lot of material, and then begin to use different favorite parts over and over. But, the results can be a matter of weeks rather than years, that's for sure.
Now, I'm going to ask, you don't have to answer this, but I'm just curious. What's the most, can you tell me one of the biggest things you've manifested using your own teachings?
Well, I think I got my beautiful soulmate I live with. My health is great.
That's pretty good.
Got meaningful work that I'm excited about doing. To give you an idea, Liquid Luck CD, I had been working with somebody else, Monroe Institute, to put out meditation CDs. That was frustratingly slow. I decided I wanted to do this, followed intuition to call a local guitar store who told me about this guy who has a great sound lab, who told me about where you can get them produced, who told me about a great artist who would do the cover art, which you like on the Inner Vegas Adventure. He did for that as well. And in 2 weeks, I had the CD in my hand and in production, where if I had done it the normal way, it could have been 2 years to put that into production. So that there's a flow that I just love to see, synchronistic flow that happens. But for me, when I see people who've been in pain 20 years come and say I'm pain-free the next day from physical pain, that's the kind of thing that floats my boat. I find as the most satisfying manifestations are really helping others and things to do with emotional and spiritual life more than financial, though things have been good that way as well.
So would you say that Liquid Luck is where to start? Say, for instance, if I said, hey, Doc, this all sounds great, but, I mean, I've had a hard life my entire life. Let's say I'm almost 40 years old. I've never had any money. I'm so used to not having anything. That's all great and wonderful, but I don't believe this stuff. Yeah, I could start there,
right? But what I'd comment to the person is life for most people is a mixture of good and bad, right?
Most of us,
yeah. And if you've had all bad the whole time, you're probably doing psychokinesis, and now you just need to take out the fear, and you'll be beginning to manifest consistently more positive, just as you've been manifesting consistently negative. And again, that's simplistic. People, have heavy traumas as a kid and stuff that get things going in a negative direction. But by and large, it's, if life isn't a mixture of just good and bad, something's going on to make it non-random for
right.
you.
I think it's perception, too. They don't realize the good things that happened in their life. They're not even focused on it,
That can be true as well. But, you got to start somewhere, and the Liquid Luck book and CD would give somebody a lot to chew on and hopefully some experience to the contrary. And I've seen that, where people report like, gee, I've been without work for 3 years, and now I got 3 job offers in the same week. And, I love to hear those kind of stories.
Well, I appreciate you coming on to Lighting the Void. This was a fascinating conversation. Do you have anything that you wanted to announce or just make sure that everybody knows how to find you on the web before we let you go?
Yeah, finding me, Googling my name, Gallenberger, Gallenberger, you'll get to me. If you Google Liquid Luck, you'll get to me. Website again, Sync, SYNC, Creation, CREATION.com, get you there. And just to say, try something if you're interested in this area. I think you'll find it fascinating. And as I started, remember, fear is expensive, love is priceless, choose wisely. It's a precious life, and you can create a good one for yourself, your family around you, and your community. And that's one thing that excites me nowadays. It used to be people say, how do I manifest a Mercedes-Benz or something?
Right.
Now often they say, how can I manifest something that will benefit my whole community? And if we all do that, we're going to be in good shape.
I think you got that right. The Mercedes-Benz does sound nice, though. But
nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it at all. I appreciate you coming on. And the website is Sync Creation, guys. That's Sync, SYNC, CREATION, syncreation.com, innervegas.com, and I think the other one's Liquid Luck Book. Is that it? .com?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Guys, go check that out. If I know some of you are interested in hanging out with them, go check that out. Let me know how it goes. Heck, I may even do it sometime too. You never know. This stuff sounds it sounds fun to me. I mean, just the Vegas part sounds fun. I'd probably do it for that. But
it can be a lot of fun, a lot of learning.
Thank you so much for coming on Lighting the Void. It's been
You're welcome.
My
pleasure. Thanks for having me, and I wish all the best to all the listeners tonight.
Dr. Joseph Gallenberger, you guys go check that stuff out. I do have to say while we roll out of here that this show was produced by The Fringe FM and cannot be rebroadcasted or syndicated without written permission. And intro music was by Chronux, main music by Bundy, also Kevin MacLeod and Space Station. We'll see you guys tomorrow night with Bruce Smith. Good night.